Hi, my name is Joseph Alai. Welcome to my channel. And today I want to talk about how to still manifest what you want despite being sad or angry or stressed out or just in a bad state of mind. The reason I've made this video is because it's come to my attention time and time again, the question, can I manifest if I'm sad? Or I don't feel good, or I can't fully embody the feeling of the wish fulfilled. So I'd like to dispel some of these, misconceptions as far as how to manifest by taking you through the process of how manifestation works as it relates to emotions and some tips and techniques of how to get out of a negative mindset. But before we begin, definitely hit the like button. It does something to the algorithm so that those who wouldn't normally be able to see this type of video will be able to see it. Hit the subscribe button and the bell icon just to stay notified for manifestation techniques broken down at the most base level in a systematic way. So let's jump into it then. What do you do if you are feeling sad and you still want to manifest what you want? What do you do if you're stressed out, if you have anxiety, or if you are in fear? So the way that manifestation works, or that way that we impress our subconscious mind, is by the means of our imagination. So the idea is, or in more specifically, the exact way this works, is whatever we feed our subconscious mind by means of our imagination, that exactly will be replicated or created in this external three-dimensional world. So kind of the opposite of that, in a way that it's most commonly, the most common misconception as far as how it works, is that our emotion itself is the sole reason why we bring things forth into our reality, meaning our mood begets our experience. So there's some truth to this, but it's missing a lot. And in fact, you can still manifest what you want, even if you're not matching that mood. Now, again, this is a little bit contradictory to a lot of other teachings, but it is so easily tested. And so before we hop into some techniques of how to, or if you can manifest while upset or etc., I want to give you one technique to take immediately so that you can put it to the test as soon as possible. Despite your mood, or even do this when you're in a bad mood, take a pen and write down 5 items that would, if true, you would be writing from that point of view. So in other words, that came out wrong. What do you want, right? Small things, medium things, large things. But I give an exercise that I kind of randomly discovered years back, and it's, if you write something down in the tense as if you've already received it, then it will manifest on the screen of space. So some of the examples I give are, I received a free cup of coffee, an old friend messaged to me, it rained for 5 minutes, right? Things generally that I write down help to stretch my idea of what is possible through manifestation. So the reason I give this exercise, and it's very good in immediately disproving the idea that we can't manifest what we want if we are in a bad mood, is because you will watch, despite how you feel, despite what you're thinking, if you take those moments and you write down those items, you don't even have to imagine them. You just write them down. You stay while you're writing it down, focus on it. You never have to look at it again. You don't have to read it back to yourself. You don't even have to imagine anything at all. But you'll watch as each of those items will systematically begin to manifest themselves on the screen of space. And so if you're in a bad mood, I encourage you also to do this practice, because you'll watch that this will still unfold. Now, why does this happen? So when we imagine, oftentimes what we do is we close our eyes immediately, and I'm talking about visualization, we visualize immediately the thing that we want, right? So the idea is we imagine after we've received the item, after we have received our manifestation, not before we've received our manifestation, not during, after, right? And the reason for this is it goes back to the concept of how manifestation works. That which we impress on the subconscious mind will be carbon copied or manifested outward on the screen of space, which means if we imagine in something before the end, then it will manifest exactly outward, which means we will be moved through a bridge of incidents or a number of events, and we will stop before the very end, because that's exactly what we've imagined. But once we decide that we want something, oftentimes we're missing a piece of the puzzle before we imagine it. So when we visualize, we should actually quiet our mind down to the degree to which we've cleared out most of what we can that is either bothering us or that's in this world. So in other words, when you close your eyes, this is a practice that I will do. I will count backwards, whether it's from 300 or whether it's just 10. I'm counting backwards, but the idea is to focus on that counting. So there have been times, and a lot of times actually, if my mind is kind of going crazy, if I'm not focused, I'll count, but then I'll still be thinking about the thing that I want, because counting is easy. It's easy to forget about it. So we want to make sure that we're focused on counting backward before we ever imagine. And another thing, if it's not working, if it's not allowing me to become fully present in the moment, I will also add breathing, focusing on my breathing and counting backwards. I'll start one, like whether it's I'm focusing on my breathing first, or I start counting first and then I add the other method, whatever if I'm breathing first, then I'll add counting. If I'm counting first, then I'll add breathing a little bit later. But the point is that if you can practice this, the awareness that is within us can only be aware of one thing at a time. So while we are super stressed on things in the external world, what's going to happen tomorrow or what happened yesterday, that's all we can focus on, which means we completely forget everything around us temporarily. And a little thought experiment that goes with this is, and this is something that I would realize, is if I'm really lost in some stressful thing, if I'm anxious, if I'm worried about a conversation I just had, if I'm upset for some reason, oftentimes I'll have to yell at myself to stop. It's almost as if I'm in that world temporarily. I'm in the thought world, right? Because we can so easily get lost in the story because we can only focus on one thing at a time. So with that said, counting backward, focusing on our breathing for a short span of time until we are centered or present or whatever you want to call it is critical to then jump into the imaginal act. Pardon me. So that same way that works is the same way that writing something down works. If you'll notice, when you're writing a list down of 5 items, 10 items, whatever, in the tense as if you've already received it, what you'll notice is you are solely and completely focused on that thing. So no matter what worries we have, no matter any of that stuff, if we're able to, we're basically writing, which means we're using our hands, we're using hand-eye, we're thinking because we're writing, and we're reading it back to ourselves. It basically embodies all senses and we lose track of everything else around us. And so it doesn't matter if we were stressed out, anxious, sorry, excited, it doesn't matter. These simple techniques help one, even if it's just for the time being, to stay focused and centered and impress on our subconscious mind. And the beautiful thing is once we can, say for instance, you visualize, say you count backward and then you visualize. After that point in time, it's basically like planting a seed. So you don't need to consistently stay in that end result. You don't need to stay in the mood as if you have already received it. Instead, it's really truly like a seed. Again, the best way to test to prove this to yourself is by testing it, and you can do that with the list method again, because you can write things down, never think of it again, or you can visualize and never think of something again, or visualize when you're in a bad mood and then go back and be miserable again, whatever the case is. But it works. You don't need to stay in the end. So I want to talk about again why this is, right? So, or another way to look at this per se. Say I'm in a bad mood and I want to imagine, I don't know, receiving a large sum of money or something like that, right? When we invoke our imagination, we basically enter into another realm or another dimension that exists within the subconscious mind, or within the awareness, all infinite potentials of awareness or the universe. So even if I feel some type of way, the moment I'm entering into this dimension, I will, if I'm truly doing it properly, then I will begin to experience what it would be like if that were true. So even if I am feeling a little type of way, a lot of my other imaginal senses are going to be invoked, which means emotion is just one of them. Emotion is not the end all be all. We can manifest through visualization alone, through imaginal hearing alone, through writing alone, through self-talk alone. Combining them have basically like a compound effect, and it can be very accurate. But if you're having an imaginal conversation about how you just received a ton of money and your friends are happy for you and you have your new Bentley and Maserati, but you're still feeling a little emotionally not there, you don't need to worry so much, because those other imaginal faculties all combined will create a seed which is impressed upon the subconscious mind, and then it must be replicated on this creative space, which means eventually you will be brought through a bridge of incidents that will lead you to that point in time. And when you have your Maserati and your Bentley and you received a lot of money and your friends are happy, perhaps something happened at that time too where you were like a little anxious and upset, but it doesn't matter because you've still received your end goal. And so all in all, the key takeaways from this aspect is that it's not just feeling that manifests, right? Now, again, this is contrary to a lot of teachings, but do that list method again, prove it to yourself. It's very, very, very simple. And then I want to say one more thing about how to snap out of a bad mood in general. So despite what you're feeling, if you're feeling sad, depressed, angry, uninspired, whatever, if you in your mind visualize yourself for even just a moment of yourself as someone who's happy, inspired, or the opposite of any of those negative things that you're undergoing, then what's going to happen is, even if you're like, after you imagine it for a few seconds, then it will, whether it takes a few minutes or whatever, you will begin to snap out of that mood. And once you're in your good mood, or the mood that you sought, then you'll probably remember, oh yeah, it's because I imagined it, right? Most of the times when this happens to me, by the time I'm in a good mood, I forgot that I had imagined it in the first place, and I forgot that I was in a bad mood altogether. So utilizing all these techniques and ideas together, and kind of knowing how manifestation works, that it's a carbon copy of all imaginal faculties combined, impressed in the subconscious mind, it should take off a lot of the stress and strain that that being in a bad mood kind of gets you. Oh, and just to wrap it up, I forgot this one thing. If you're in an awful, terrible, mega bad mood, you can't shake it, it's a nightmare, and I can't focus at all on my imaginal act, what I'll do is I will just wait. I will just wait. I will not sail in the storm, I will sail in calm seas, right? So if you are terribly anxious and just whatever the case is, and you're having such a nightmare of a time, just let it be for a while. But when you finally hit a good mood, make sure you double down and impress your subconscious mind again to make sure those extremely terrible, awful, anxious thoughts don't come in again, right? Use the time that you have, use the good moods that you have, use the inspiration that you have, and watch how things will begin to shift and change. So listen, I hope you liked that. If you did, hit the like button again. Subscribe and hit the bell icon if you want more very broken down systematic methods on how to manifest what you want, and stay tuned for more.